Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Hey, private practice heroes, it's Kathy Colaiacovo, and thanks for tuning into the podcast today. We are going to do a different kind of episode today. I have a special guest on here, a client of mine that we've been working together for the past year. And funny enough, it turned out when I did a little checking, our very first call together was exactly 1 year ago today, this day that we're recording it. So I am so excited to welcome to my recording studio here, Janice Dada. And she is a registered dietitian nutritionist from California. And she is the owner of SoCal Nutrition and Wellness. And the reason we've been working together for the last year is because she has written a book. And her book is launching this month, April 1st, 2025. It's not a joke. It's the actual day that it's coming out there. And I wanted to talk to her and share and highlight a little about her book that's coming out, but also talk about some of the things we've been doing over the last year working together. Janice has been doing private coaching with me, and we have been focusing on getting her ready for the last 6-8 weeks pretty much, and getting things all set and ready for that book launch and working on a book marketing strategy. And as we do this, of course, I've got to tell you what the name of her book is. And if you've been listening to my podcast at all, you'll know why I love working with her, because the book is called Intuitive Eating for Diabetes. And it is a great book. I've seen parts of it in my work with her. And it's all about taking a no shame, no blame, non-diet approach to managing your blood sugar. So Janice, welcome to the studio and to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here doing something different than we normally do.
Thank you for having me, Kathy.
Yes. So we have been working together for a year to today. It's our anniversary. And part of what we've been doing is getting things all set up and going so that you're ready for this book launch, which you knew was happening when you reached out to me last January, I think was when you first reach out. And part of what I wanted to talk about today was talk about some of the things that we did to get you ready for this day, and also get some idea of sharing some of that process of book marketing. Because one of my first questions that I probably have for you, and I'm going to get you to introduce yourself here, but I'll let you think about it because I don't think I warned you about this question. I didn't give you on the list ahead of time, is what we ended up doing, what you expected to do when you reached out in the first place with the problem or issue that you had. So you can think about that for a second, but I do want to give you an opportunity to get on your soapbox and do a proper intro of yourself and how you do your own elevator pitch to people and introduce yourself to them. So you've got the soapbox moment here. Take
it. Sure. Well, I'm a weight-inclusive dietitian and diabetes educator. I use intuitive eating counseling in my practice, and I'm also an eating disorder specialist. So I work with individuals to make peace with food and their bodies, and I help families create healthy environments where children can thrive and grow into the bodies that they're meant to have. And as you mentioned, I recently wrote a book, Intuitive Eating for Diabetes, because I'm also passionate about simplifying and destigmatizing the nutrition and weight-based messages for people with this condition.
Right. And it's funny because I don't know if I've told you before, but my husband, Marco, was diagnosed at around 40 with type 2 diabetes. So I totally understand, why and how people go looking for solutions to help them that don't always necessarily mean taking medication. So I think this book is awesome. And I think it is a great book. And what really got to me when you first reached out to me and told me what the book was all about was that it was intuitive eating for diabetes. And it was funny because I didn't expect that anybody had ever done a specific book with this very specific topic, because we've got the main book that Elaine and Evelyn had created years ago. So I think it's just an excellent extension of all of that work. And I think it adds on to your specialty in what you do working with your clients.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was thinking of writing this book proposal, part of that process is to see what else is out there. And there really was nothing out there, nothing that was weight inclusive for diabetes, nothing that used intuitive eating principles for diabetes, and everything on the market was very diet and restriction driven, or all about supposedly reversing your diabetes, but nothing was really in this particular focus.
Right, exactly. And we saw that actually when we did, because what Janice did first with me was she did a 2-week marketing roadmap. So she was looking to get some ideas for what to do. And actually, I went back to the calendar booking, which is why I knew what our anniversary date was. Mm-hmm. And she had written down that what she was looking to get help with was creating leads prior to the book launch. So when you think about that and you think about what we've done over the past year, is what we've done what you thought was going to happen? And I don't know. I don't even know if I know what you thought we would do. What did you envision getting help from someone like me would look like?
Well, I think now that we're at the end of sort of all the marketing related to it, I don't know that I would have known that the little pieces that we put together would be the pieces that we would use. But I think certainly we've done what we set out to do in terms of, awakening a completely asleep list and starting to actually engage online again, which I had stopped doing after at some point during the pandemic when something needed to give. Yeah.
And marketing is often the very first thing that goes for most people. Yeah. And I think back then I was looking back at what we did, because on the roadmap, we were essentially trying to determine where did you need to focus your energy and what did you need to do to be ready for when the time came to get into the real book launch part of what you would be doing. And the first part, of course, was messaging on the website, because now all of a sudden you had one website, your SoCalNW.com, your practice website, mm-hmm. which was for clients and people signing up to work with you. And now you're going to have a book specifically focused on diabetes and how you work with clients through the intuitive eating. But the messaging was going to be very key, and it wasn't ready for, nurturing people that might be buyers of the book versus your nutrition clients. And then you definitely knew when you came to me that you did not have a plan or were not ready at that moment to get new leads. Like I think you knew you needed to work on email marketing and generating leads and list building. But as you mm-hmm. said, you had a MailChimp list that you hadn't emailed since maybe 2020, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big part of the action steps that we had to work on as well. And that is where we focused on. We really did a lot on narrowing and honing the message so that you could have people that might be looking specifically for diabetes related information, and you had mm-hmm. a spot to funnel them through versus your regular nutrition clients, which, as we talked about, is kind of the bread and butter of your income at the moment. And as you were going through that. So when we looked at the messaging and we looked at everything that we were doing, was there anything that big that I said to you, what I found when we did the assessment that shocked you or surprised you about what was there? And I don't know if you remember anything or not. Maybe you don't.
Well, I think the thing that stands out to me is that whenever I would put something out there, it was sort of just to do it, but I didn't have a call to action.
Right.
And so that's definitely one of the main takeaways from working on marketing together, is that everything needs to sort of have a purpose, right? Like, and if somebody's interested in what I've just written about, like, capture them so that they will also be able to be nurtured in the future.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big part. Calls to action everywhere and clear messaging. Those combined are how you're going to build your leads and get your list growing for sure. Mm-hmm. And that is something that we did do. And then we moved into focusing on the list building. So we looked at, you had a couple lead magnets you had a couple of assessments online that people could just get and take without giving you a name and email. So I almost had a heart attack when we found that, I'll be honest, because I never like giving away those leads for free.
Yeah.
So
I think I knew in theory that there needed to be a sequence and I needed to set something up, but I just didn't really know how to do it or didn't make the time for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was sort of frozen in my tracks. Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to for a lot of people. It's just really, what do you do? How do I make this happen? You wanted people to take the assessment, which you knew was a good tool. But the problem was you were just giving it to them. So you were losing all of those leads on the website. They could take it, download it, and move off on their merry way. And if I recall correctly, I think you also didn't have your name or contact info on that. So if they did do it, or was it an automated
That was
form?
just,
it was like,
no, it was actually emailing me. So then I had to email people back. It was even worse.
Right. Well, no, it wasn't, because you were getting their emails, but you were having to manually deal with them to get them the information. So yeah. And I do think the other one was the newsletter sign up you had through the MailChimp was busted. It had a form.
Exactly.
It had the info, but there was no button to hit enter. So people couldn't hit enter. So
one of the actual downloadable things I had created was busted there. Yeah.
Right.
So there were some things that needed to be cleaned up.
Just a few things. And
I definitely didn't want to write a book and like have nobody know about it. And so that was really the purpose, right? Like I want people to know about this book. I want people to be helped by the book so they can actually purchase it. And if I just write it and don't have any way to tell people about it, that's really not helpful.
No. And you're working with a publisher, which is different from some people. So Janice is not self-published here. She's got a publisher who's working with her with the book, helping with some aspects of it. And I've worked with tons of authors and helped them launch all sorts of different books. I was saying I have 2 bookshelves of clients, and I'm waiting for Janice's book to be the new one to go on the bookshelf of clients. But those, even with a publisher, they always expect the author to have a presence online, to be doing marketing and helping them market the book too. So it's not like the days of old when you have a publisher and they just do everything for you. Mm-hmm. There are publishers, of course, that do that still. But in this day and age, for some people, that is still going to be a piece of what you need to do as part of your work with them. So you have to be ready for it. And you have to be ready with your website. You have to be ready with lead generation and a social media presence, which we worked on all of those. Mm-hmm. One of the bigger things I think that we did that was something you had probably never considered was the re-engagement campaign and moving people off of your MailChimp list onto your ConvertKit, I still call it, kit list.
Yes.
And getting them over there. So it was in a system that would work better. And then you also had some email collection happening on the website, but not getting into a system either. So kind of you had the leads coming in, but you did nothing really with them other than maybe manually emailing them back.
Right. Yeah. They were, even if they were subscribing, they weren't getting anything after that. And so instantly. I think people forget that they've subscribed to something and then they think, why am I getting an email all these months later?
Yeah. And with lead generation, that's the biggest thing. People that are willing to punch in their name and email and get something from you right away, they have a problem and they're in that moment, they want it. So you need to make sure that they're getting it right away. Emailing them with a reply tomorrow and the PDF is, I mean, you're doing it and it's great personal service. But in the meantime, they could have moved on to someone else's website and gotten what they needed. And now they've made that relationship and started connecting with them and nurturing them.
Exactly. So, Yep.
And that was a big part of what we did. So, and that took a good 6 weeks or so to go and do, because we had to do some very specific emails and segmenting to Janice's list in the old system and move them into the new system. And I know for me, we did get them over there. It was a very cold list that you had. And we were also trying to comply with all the CAN spam laws and make sure that we weren't, putting names in that we shouldn't have. And I looked up a couple stats before we get on this today. So I know for me, I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more people from your old list to your new one, but the coldness of it was a big factor.
Yeah.
But the people that did click on those emails, we sent them in the old system. I don't know if you realize this, but the client types of people we reached out to, The ones that clicked to look through and see if they wanted to follow and continue, getting information from you, which was a big message from these campaigns to try and keep the clients and the connections and contacts Janice had on the list. The clients that we had segmented that moved over, when they went and clicked to, because Janice had made a brand new lead magnet called Rethinking Diabetes. That's what it's called, right? Rethinking Diabetes.
Rethinking Diabetes Care.
Diabetes Care, yeah. And it's all about, so the title of our ebook is Rethinking Diabetes Care, What Conventional Approaches Get Wrong by Focusing on Weight and What to Do Instead. So it's an ideal lead magnet for her new book, because anybody that is interested in downloading something like that would be a potential interest in buying her book. So part of what we did was we were trying to segment clients and general people that were on our old list. And she had fellow clinicians on there, which sometimes they're interested in what you're doing in this way too. So when we went over there and we gave them this link to get the new download with the clients, from the people that clicked and looked at diabetes care, Rethinking Diabetes Care guide, 27% of the clients converted over. And these were older clients, not current ones. And for the clinicians, it was 48%. So it was very high rates of conversion that you had on there. And I don't know if you realize this, but part of what we did too. So that lead magnet was something we created, I think in the fall, late fall.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So it's been out there now for about 6 months and it's been growing. She's been marketing it. It's on her website. And she right now from the form on her website actually has a conversion rate of 90%. And I don't know if you realize that.
From anybody who clicks on it?
Anybody that sees it. So people that visit your website, of the people that are seeing it and going to that page and seeing the form, because that's what part of the system, why we moved you over to the system, so we can see stats like that. 92.5% of the people who look at it are clicking and downloading it, which is an awesome conversion rate, by the way.
Pretty good.
And we also got her set up with a general news one and a pop-up one, so that when people do come to her website, she has lots of ways to capture them. And even her general news one, which we wrote with a very specific wording, not just sign up for my news, right?
Right.
That converts at 31%. So you have really good things going. So we've built this really good base for her as we build up to the book launch of having ways for people to get on her email list so that she can nurture them with her newsletters, which she's also started doing regularly as well.
Yes.
And so it's been great as part of all of this. And that was part of setting the lead generation funnel up, was getting that diabetes care guide set up there so that you do have something very specific for your ideal client for the book. And that what we're going to do, and we have done that, is started marketing to them and telling them, the book's about to come out. And the next thing we're going to talk about is how we started marketing the book and what we got set up as well. And for anybody, before we move on from that lead magnet, anybody looking to download, because there could be somebody out there looking for information on rethinking diabetes care. So I will put a link to Janice's lead magnet there as well. And the big thing about this is we were now aligning her audience, her potential audience for the book, with people coming to her website and having something very specific. So the whole strategy behind that is to make sure that the people on your email list are really highly qualified potential clients. If somebody's downloading a lead magnet about rethinking diabetes care, when you start telling them about your book, Intuitive Eating for Diabetes, there's just going to be an instant connection of, that could be something I need too. So that's why this was so critical.
Yeah.
And that's when, if I think about it too, one of the things that people don't always think about is how much you have to plan a book launch and a book marketing strategy. It takes a lot of time. I always tell people you need a good 6 months. So, you did reach out in time for sure. But then once you get to it, then you get closer to the time. We want to start doing, pre-launching campaigns. And some people like to do it as an immediate one. They don't send anybody to the pre-launch. Her publisher, New Harbinger, really wanted to see us do some pre-launch stuff and getting the sales going, pre-orders happening as well. So that's something else that we worked into. But one of the things that we did, and we talked about it, I believe, way back on either the marketing roadmap we did before doing our one-on-one coaching, where you started working and we started meeting every month,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about coming up with a new website for the book.
Yes.
And this is something I know when we first talked about this, you were a little confused partly by what I was saying, because one of the things that I really wanted to focus on with Janice was having a way to convert book buyers, buy books, whether it's at Amazon online, whether it's at Books A Million in the stores, wherever it might be. We want to have a way, and there is a way, to turn book buyers who you have no clue who they are, because when they're buying off those websites, you don't get any information. And we wanted to have a way to turn them into leads. And I know when I first brought this up, it was a bit of a confusing topic, but you totally got into it. And the idea is you get a website for your book and you mention it in the book. So it's important to start this early because, and I think we had like a week, maybe even only a couple of days when we finalized the website you were going to have to get printed in the book too.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I knew from the start that New Harbinger would have a companion site because they had a word count that was going to be hard to meet. And so some things they were going to put on their own website and link to it or reference it in the book so that people could go and download additional resources. So you had the very brilliant idea of, can you actually have your own site and not have it be New Harbinger's site? Because then you have more control, right? Like then I get to see who's coming and who's downloading. And then I could also potentially capture them if they want to share their emails.
Right.
So then when we looked up the site, it was available.
I remember that day.
By some miracle.
I remember that day because we were on a coaching call and we were talking about this, and I could see that you finally understood what I was talking about. And it's not just about having your own site for the book that you can control, you can see the analytics, all that, because you'll never be able to see that on your publisher's site. But it's also about having, because I've done this for years, coming back, probably one of the first books I helped one of my clients launch was actually a book she co-authored with Jack Canfield. And there was some bonus stuff involved in it. And I've worked with other coaches that have done the same thing. And so what they do is they have an extra resource. You mention it in the book. You tell people so they can go to the website, and there's extra stuff they can get. And it's not a page on the website or on the internet you publish anywhere. So you know that any traffic coming to that specific website or to that page on the main website, the only way they're getting it is if they read it in the book and then they've typed it in online or somebody shared it with them. But the majority are going to be book readers. So this was really critical. And part of what we talked about was having this website and then having this hidden page. And just to be clear, everybody, we're not going to tell you what the hidden page is that's on the website. You'll have to buy the book to find that out. But you can go to the website that she got. And this was where we were shocked when we looked it up on that call. And I punched in intuitive eating for diabetes.com. I was like, Janice, this is available. And she said, what? So that was her immediate action step. And I think probably within 2 minutes of getting off that coaching call that day, you had bought the domain because we were both shocked that it was still out there and available, because something that high value is not often available. And that is something that was really important for us to get in place. And I believe we had to get that URL to the publishers. That was in the summertime, I think. Was it not? It was not past September, I don't think.
Well, we were still making edits to what the URL was going to be at like last call for changes before it was going to be at its,
in print,
final to print date.
Yeah.
Because, I think originally I had left it as the domain, and then we ended up wanting to add it to the subpage.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So there was a lot of thinking ahead and sort of envisioning that you were able to help with.
Yeah. And that's the thing about launching and doing a book launch in particular. If you had come to me in January of this year, when the book is coming out in April, so even giving yourself 3 or 4 months, it's too late at that point because your book's out there for print.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't have helped you figure that out and change anything because there's no way to get it changed. Once it's gone from publishers to print, you're done. There's a time of no going back. And so that's why it's really important to me that people doing this, anybody launching a book or even other things like that, but a book in particular, because once that print date is gone, you can't edit it till you're on a second edition, which could take a while.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And the special resource, the bonus resources that she has are going to be very related to what she has in the book. So it's just added value that you're giving those people that have bought a book online. And the website page that we have set up for it has some of those instant downloads of resources that you talk about in the book. It's part of the teaching in the book. But then you've got this extra bonus. So if people are willing to hand over their name and email, then there's something extra they're going to get to add on to everything they've got in the book and all the resources already. So it is an excellent way to convert those unknown book buyers into leads that you have on your list, because you never know. I mean, there could be people in there that may want your actual services one-on-one as a dietitian. There could be lots of things that happen, but it puts some extra value on you as an author because you've given people all this extra stuff with everything that they've already gotten from the book.
Yeah. Plus, it's actually easy to share that website, right? Because it's just the title of the book. Yeah. So it's easy to share that versus my private practice website. Somebody might type something in incorrectly or something.
Right. Yeah. Website domains are really important. It's harder now that we've moved into the world where things are very different and a lot of domains are taken. So Janice's website for the book, everyone, is just intuitiveeatingfordiabetes.com. And part of the other strategy behind the launch we've got going, and this was something I'll be honest, she came up on her own because she broached the subject with me. I didn't think she was quite ready for one, but she was game for it. And so she's actually got a pre-order bonus happening. So she's got an extra bonus that's going out to people who pre-order the book. So what you do is you come to this bonus page on her website for intuitiveeatingfordiabetes.com/bonus for anybody that wants to get that. And I'll have links to it in the show notes. And what happens on that page is she's got some extra bonuses that you can get: a handout, PDF, a guide. It's what do we call it? It's 30 blood sugar friendly meal and snack ideas. So it's extra value for somebody who has diabetes or someone they know has diabetes and they're looking for extra information. And so what happens is people come to the website, or we've been telling them to go there, and they get information on the book. They go and order their book copy, and they come back, and there's a form to enter with the book order number. And then it gives you access to this extra bonus that she has. Again, it's another way of getting more leads on your email list of pre-qualified, interested people that may be somebody that want to do more with you in the future, because you don't know where this book will go in the future. You know, maybe there's a course coming. Maybe there's another book. Maybe there's a companion workbook. Those are always good too, right?
Right. Yep.
And
yeah. And it was meant to be not just for people who have diabetes, this pre-order bonus. And even the book is not only for people with diabetes. I think a lot of people that are healthcare professionals can get a lot of value from it. And also anyone who has ever been worried about their blood sugar or who has a family history. It's a weight inclusive way to approach a condition. And so the idea behind the bonus is like everybody gets a little bit stifled in their creativity with putting together meals and snacks. I see that in my office working with clients all the time. And so this is like 30 different ways to add some inspiration and some variety. In addition, there was a smoothie formula and a meal planning worksheet that you could fill in to just kind of organize yourself.
Exactly. So there's lots of stuff that people can put into action. So again, it's not that you've got just the book and nothing else. Janice has all sorts of extra resources that help people use what's in the book. And even people that don't get the book, there's some definite benefit you can get out of this. And I mean, for me, the free guide on the blood sugar friendly meal and snack ideas, everybody could use something like that. So it is something that is accessible for a lot of people and useful for a lot of people. But what I like about a lot of these is there's some things we've got, like the meal planner template. And I was very fussy as we went through reviews on these lead magnets. And so I said, this is something people will print out. So you have to follow, like I've got my little rules for lead magnets. And one of them is get your URL on the bottom of every page. Because if they print it out, hand it to a friend, because people will do that. You want anybody grabbing it where it's not something you've given them to necessarily, so they know where it came from. You want them to be able to know that it did come from you, which it could then do selling for you about your services, about your book, without you even being part of the relationship too.
Yeah, such a critical point. I had left that off.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, those are the main things that we looked at fixing up, over this past year as we got you ready to launch time here. And it has helped, because I know when we did when you started the first couple reach outs and promotion for the bonus and the book launch and the pre-order, Amazon, the way that they work is if there's a certain amount of sales within a certain amount of time period, you might get on the top of that list. You might get up to the top spot on their list of books in different categories. And you did get to that point.
I did. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Now, did you take a screenshot of when you saw the one?
Yes, I did.
You were in the one. Okay, good. I haven't seen your screenshot. I did get a screenshot when it was number 5 in Canada. And then I also got a screenshot of one where it was listed with 2 other books as the hot new releases. So, we've got some really good stuff there. But all of this, the reason why she ended up in some of these top places in these different book categories and on Amazon is because she's been doing all this marketing to build people and the interest in there and getting people to her book to buy it, which once it launches and starts getting mailed out to people, will just add a little bit more. So what we'll be watching for over the next few months is seeing what kind of traffic comes to that website with the extra bonus resource, and seeing how people are looking at that and what kind of action they're taking from it. So
yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
It will be. So Janice, as we finish off here, and before I let you go, because I know you've got a client coming in at the top of the hour, I guess one of the things that I would just want to say and sort of, ask your opinion on is looking back from when we started a year ago, when it comes to marketing your practice in general, or even specifically about marketing your book, what was one of the top 1 or 2 lessons that you learned about marketing that you hadn't understood or fully grasped before we started working? So just, what were those biggest aha moments that you had about doing the marketing, which we all know nobody likes to do marketing, but it's one of those things everybody has to do in order to get new clients or business.
Yeah. I had definitely started out my practice sort of just like a build it and they will come, and didn't do much marketing, and somehow it worked for a while. And I think, like I mentioned already, one of the biggest takeaways was always having a call to action. Another was to really kind of like use material in multiple ways. So like starting on the blog and then taking snippets and putting it to LinkedIn, and then another snippet and putting it to Instagram, really kind of reducing the workload of it. And then also having like keywords and doing all the behind the scenes stuff on the website with the search engine optimization, because otherwise you're just kind of writing into the ether and nobody finds your content.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing, sometimes people underestimate the power of the website, of understanding a little bit about SEO and keywords, and how all of that can actually help you get more business and more clients. My method, I mean, what you're talking about there is a Thrive marketing method, write one article, repurpose it all over the place. But also I'm very big on getting people set up with the 4 pillars of marketing a practice or business. Your foundations, we did that with all the email marketing stuff, with the website, all of that. Your messaging, we switched that and got, made sure people understand you've got the book part of things, you've got the practice part of things. The next thing was the content and understanding what kind of content to put out there, and having a plan for consistent content. Even if you can only spend an hour a week doing marketing, even something consistent, doing that is critical. Episode 50 of my podcast talks about that very thing. What to do if you only had 1 hour a week to market your practice or your business. Even anybody can follow that along. And it's a very basics. It's not, showing up and doing 20 reels a week on Instagram and all this other stuff. There are pieces of that can help, but if you don't have the foundations in place, it's not going to work. And then the systems to put it all together. And I feel like over this past year, you have learned so much about this. Like I see questions from you and stuff in a very different place than it was previous to our time together. So for me, that's awesome to see, because I know that, those lessons worked, and you'll take this with you now wherever you go in the future, right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely grew a lot in my marketing understanding.
Which is my goal. All right. So I want to get you to remind everybody where they can pre-order your book and tell them a little about the bonus that's going on, and then also how they can connect with you online too.
Yeah. So I have links to all the different booksellers where you can pre-order on intuitiveeatingfordiabetes.com. Once you've pre-ordered, if you'd like the bonus, you can also click on the tab that says bonus or intuitiveeatingfordiabetes.com/bonus and put your order number in, and it will send you the 30 plus meal and snack inspirations for you. And let's see what else. My private practice is linked through the Intuitive Eating for Diabetes website, so you can also find me there.
Yeah, awesome. And I will put links to all of that and her social media channels on there as well. And just remember, everybody, if you are interested in that, go there, visit, get the book, get it online, or at a minimum, get her lead magnet on rethinking diabetes care. Because I thought when we put that together, the content in that was really awesome and really makes people think about, the approach to managing diabetes in this day and age as well. So yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, Janice, thank you so much. I'm so glad we got this time to come on here because we are always doing the marketing and the strategy and everything. So it was nice to just share and hear a little bit about the process from your point of view without the pressure of, okay, what are we doing next, Janice? And here's your homework and your action steps. So yes. I do appreciate your time coming on here.
Thanks for having me, Kathy.
All right. You're welcome. And that is it for today. So as we sign off here, I think one of the big lessons that I'd like to remind people to think about when you're doing any kind of marketing, getting back to those 4 pillars and being strategic about what you're doing before you jump into the marketing is absolutely critical. So I hope that is something everyone has learned today from this lesson. And thanks again to Janice Dada for being on here. I'll put all her connections out there. And I hope I'll be watching every day on April 1st. I'll be watching to see how the stats are on the Amazon page. And that's it for today, everybody. A little different episode here on Marketing Your Private Practice. Kind of a side practice that Janice has going on here, but all related to her life as a dietitian and specialist in diabetes care. And that's it for today. Thank you all for tuning in. And I want to remind you as we head off here that if you want to thrive in practice or business, it is always going to take off better, have better results, and be easier to do if you're being strategic from the very beginning. I'll see you next time.
You can find all of our show notes and resources mentioned at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at pepperitmarketing and say hi. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and make sure to rate and review the podcast and hit subscribe on your favorite player so you don't miss any future episodes.